My doctors, they kept telling me that I should be careful. I shouldn't strain myself. And at one point I just said no. It's actually causing me more of a hindrance because I want to do certain things and I can find a loophole in the words that they're telling me. So I allowed myself to do things, and biking was something that I knew I could do. Okay. Camera's going.
Yeah, turn your phone off.
So I think like most kids, I guess, when they're younger, they get a bike. I say most kids. That was my first real experience riding. Me and my sister learned how to ride without training wheels when we were living in Gander, Newfoundland. I joined a biking club in my middle school when we were living in Greenwood, Nova Scotia, and we biked up. I think it was the North Hill because we lived in the valley, in the Annapolis Valley, and we biked up that hill, and then we came down, and I realized how fast you can go on a bike, and so from then I was kind of hooked. I've been interested in the North for a long time. My dad actually was stationed up in Alert for some time because he's in the armed forces. I was interested in northern areas of the world and the North Pole and the Northern Lights. I have a pretty keen interest in learning about different indigenous cultures and traditions. I say that in a plural sense because there's so many across Canada, and putting a indigenous culture kind of title on things doesn't really highlight the fact that there are different cultures. My wife and I, we looked into finding a job where we were both able to get work. And I wanted to be a teacher, and I had known about Inuvik for a while. I learned about ice road truckers and stuff like that, and I knew about the ice road and the ice highway. And I taught grade 6, and she taught kindergarten. He's reading 14,028 kilometers. One of my big projects that I have in mind that's going to take a considerable amount of time, especially now that I'm a dad, it's going from ocean to ocean to ocean. So the Arctic Ocean, the Pacific Ocean to Atlantic. And I want to tie in as many different indigenous communities as I possibly can. The whole plan is to go via bike, basically just hearing the stories that they have to say and listen to them. Again, with their permission, because it's one thing for someone to just encroach on someone's community and start asking them questions with them really not wanting to do so. For me, living in Inuvik and having Tuktoyaktuk right there, this road, again, it's only, I think it was finished in 2017. So I'm definitely not the first one to ride it, but I'm definitely doing this ride before we eventually move back or wherever we go. So I want it to be a pretty big start to a larger trip.
I had moved up here and I didn't bring a bike. It's probably one of the biggest mistakes that I've ever made. Fortunately, Brad he had a lot of bikes. I ended up riding his Kona Unit X mountain bike that he had just purchased.
I had a specialized AWOL, which is the bike that I used to go across the states. I had bags on my bike which had clothes and food and water, which I like riding with weight because it keeps the bike really grounded, and any bumps that you feel are kind of muted. And they had a drop bar, so I was able to kind of tuck in from the wind a bit.
Inuvik is about 250 kilometers north of the Arctic Circle in the Beaufort Delta region of the Northwest Territories. And Tuktoyaktuk is about 150 kilometers north, right on the Arctic Ocean.
Right, so the plan, and I've always wanted to ride the highway since it opened up in 2017. So my wife, Brittany, is going to drive us out to Tuk, right to the Arctic Ocean sign, the end of the road.
I also study climate change. So Tuktoyaktuk is going through a lot of coastline erosion. I wanted to see the area that was being affected.
I don't know when this picture was taken, but due to sea level rise, the actual end of the road is closer to this point because of everything is being eroded away. So definitely probably leave relatively early in the morning, go to the hamlet. We can't really get lost because it's only one road. We'll be up above the tree line. So many lakes. And yeah. Bears, but if we're above the tree line, we can see them.
Exactly.
Interesting to see some caribou. That would be cool. When I was born, we really didn't know what was going on. I was supposed to be born November 29th, but I came out and born on December 8th, so I was actually late. I was like 9.5 pounds. Like, I was a big kid. So there was nothing really abnormal there. But I think as they went on, they noticed some things weren't really right. Floss daily. The longest ride I've done ever, 190k. That was on the end of a bike tour. So tomorrow, or not tomorrow, on Sunday should be interesting. What's nice is that I know at the end of the ride is my bed. Not Tuk.
Yeah.
I've had this bottle for like at least 12 years.
So when I woke up that morning, I did not get the best night's sleep. I was rolling around in my sleep. I was really excited.
Did the sun get any sleep last night? Because I didn't.
I was nervous because it was a pretty big undertaking. In my head, I was thinking, I haven't put down enough miles this winter to really get my legs going. I was running, but nowhere near the distances that I wanted to.
There's a definite chill in the air. Here's something the last day of May. I'm wearing long johns.
How are you feeling?
Tired?
Are you excited?
Yes. Should I give all this to him? Leave it. Okay. Yeah, I didn't get like hardly any sleep last night at all. Getting us some energy. Boil some eggs. Mike's coming over at 6:30. We're gonna load the bikes. And we're heading to Tuktoyaktuk today.
And how far are you biking?
150 kilometers. And I haven't really put down enough miles to make it easier. I checked the temperature this morning and it's going to be like -2. Not including the wind chill of -9. And it's May 31st, 2020. Going above the tree line today. COVID definitely made this more complicated, but I think it's going to be awesome. I'm just excited to experience the landscapes across the tundra. Talk to Inuvik.
doesn't like it when everyone's leaving?
No, he doesn't. He already made his trip to Tuck.
With COVID, we talked a lot about whether we should do it or not.
There was lockdown within the territory, so there were some obstacles and logistics that we had to plan out. The hamlet of Tuk is it's on this little peninsula on the Arctic Ocean. It's very isolated. And the last thing that we would want to do is to potentially take something up there.
We communicated with the hamlet. They gave us permission, but we wanted to make sure that we had a kind of a stamp of approval. We went up with a lot of caution.
When we finally got up there and stepped out of the vehicle, the wind was just wow.
It was really cold because it was so windy. The water was still frozen, and I thought, this is the end of May. I really didn't think it would be that cold. And I know from previous experience, I know I would warm up, but then things really started to kick into high gear, and I thought, oh boy, we're like really doing this. I was a little bit like apprehensive. I wasn't sure like what pace we would be going. Except for one ride. Every ride that I've ever done, I have finished.
I first met Brad in 2019. I had just moved up to Inuvik. It was the day after the sun had finally set. So Inuvik gets 30 days of polar night in December. It was Sunday Run Club, and I met this guy with this crazy beard named Brad.
It was a birthday run for me. I think it was minus.
And that's not even including the wind chill.
Minus 39 on the board. There's a deep freeze warning here. It's like minus 55 with the wind chill. Everything is foggy and holy freezing cold. Holy.
It was the coldest run I had ever done at that point.
But yeah, we were going kind of the back skidoo paths. I was going up one of these hills and I needed a break.
Suddenly he says, just hold up 1 second.
I need a break, I only have one lung.
And that just kind of caught me off guard.
When I got back home, all my fingers, they started to have feeling. All 9 of my toes, came back and one just didn't feel right. And went to the hospital the next day and I was deemed, I had frostbite on like 80% of my toe. That like remaining like 10 to 20% that was fine was the part that was touching my other toe, which actually kept it warm. And because of that, I didn't have to get my toe cut off. When we were up there, we were wearing masks. That was part of our plan the whole time. I kind of leave everything out in the open because if I put too many expectations out there, then I could be pretty disappointed. I want things to kind of unravel as they do. I was kind of feeling like this is going to be really hard and we just started. In order for us to get back to town, we're really going to have to push hard. Breaks will be minimal. In hindsight, like I could have packed a little bit better, or I could have like prepared a little bit better. There's only so much you could do to get ready. I always feel apprehensive a little bit about something. There's like a healthy amount of nervousness that you feel, but I also think that there's importance in that. Again, it wasn't high stakes. Like we weren't. It wasn't a race. There was no real pressure to finish from any other external sources. It was our own doing. I think that if you have a good amount of nervousness going into it, it means something. Because if you show up to something that's kind of nonchalant, kind of chilled out, and say, yeah, I'm just gonna go do this, whatever, I feel like you have to have that bit of nervousness to make it worth doing. Yeah. And for a lot of my rides that I've done, I felt that, and in the end, whether it be easy or hard, I know that it was something that I aimed to do, and I did it. So growing up, I knew I was different. It was definitely something that was a medical anomaly that really not many people knew about. So there was a lot of like unknowns, and because of that, people wanted to make sure I was safe. I was diagnosed with hypoplastic right lung, so I only have the left lung. So my right lung is basically, if I were to take like my buff here, just squish it up like that, that's the tissue of my right lung. There's no alveoli, the little pockets of air that the oxygen is transferred into. There are none. And dextrocardia, so the heart, so my heart is on the right side of my chest where my lung should be. So it's my heart and my lung. So definitely when I was younger, I knew like I couldn't push myself as much as other kids my age would. But that's when it kind of alluded to me that I could do things at my own pace. It started to become really hard really quickly. Because we were above the tree line, any wind was like barreling down at us. There was no windbreak at all.
For the start of the ride, the wind coming out of town was pretty bad, and it felt like we were barely moving.
Really cold, really windy.
Our mouths were starting to dry out too with all that wind and all that dust and dirt.
The Inuvik to Tuk highway is relatively new. Up here, everything is just permafrost, so you're essentially laying down bedrock and stone on top. By the look of the road, we think the top gravel layer had just been relaid, and so it hadn't settled yet, and it was just really deep and loose.
I've heard other people call that size of rock a baby head. Pathless Paddled, a YouTube channel out of Portland, Oregon, and now Missoula, Montana. They've used that term for that size, a baby head, which is like horrible to talk about, especially now that I have a baby. I've driven the highway twice, once in the winter, which was terrifying, and once in the summer, which was not as terrifying. But there's definitely some loose sections that you think, it's a really long highway, and it's fairly remote, so maintaining it is definitely a task. The government of the NWT has looked into that highway and doing some more maintenance because it can get kind of dicey up there.
I kind of equate riding on that gravel to pushing through snow. Some sections you just had to pedal and pedal just to get going.
It's funny to watch your tire tread trail go close to the edge and then back.
We were both pretty beaten up by 70 kilometers. There are no trees, so the wind is just really, really bad because there's no break in any of the wind, and we're only halfway in.
Because this was pretty loose gravel, every uphill was a slog.
Are you losing traction on the uphill with those tires?
Every downhill we needed to be mindful of keeping traction. Like it got pretty tiring because of that like loose gravel. It got kind of slick just because I felt my front and back tires kind of like give a bit. So as I grew older, I realized that my doctors, they kept telling me that I should be careful, I shouldn't strain myself. And at one point I just said no, like it's actually causing me more of a hindrance because I want to do certain things and I can find a loophole in the words that they're telling me. So I allow myself to do things, so like running, which is more so a thing that I started a couple years ago, but biking was something that I knew I could do. So when people ask me, what's it like to have one lung? I do turn around and ask them and say, what's it like to have two? Because I don't know what that's like. And it hasn't seemed to stop me.
This is where we'll both have King of the Hill on Strava. Reevaluate our time out here. We might be longer than 5 p.m.
On May 31st, it's the exact opposite of when I met Brad in 30 days of polar night. We had already hit 24 hours of sunlight.
Which did play tricks on us. A couple times I was thinking, oh, like, 3 hours has passed or 2 hours has passed.
You look down at your watch to see how long it's been, and it's been 5 or 6 hours.
I'm like, what?
Meanwhile, the sun is still right there.
We started this ride at like 8:30 a.m. It's like 8:30 p.m. As you can see, the sun still up in the sky. Makes it very hard to tell what time it is. It's the longest day ever. And it is 24/7 sun for like 50 some odd days. Well, at least we don't need flashlights. How you feeling, Brad? Gee, like hurting all over. It's been a not so awesome day. yeah. I think the cold would be far more fearful than the dark.
The terrain never changed. It is so...
Everything looks the same!
Oh. It is so beautiful. Words barely describe the beauty of this land. You can't help but feel thankful for being able to experience this. And it's important for all of us to acknowledge our privilege in being here. In the spring and summer months, the vistas will just take your breath away. But in May, it is not a good time. Everything is the same color. It's this bland dirt color.
There's nothing out here. It's absolutely empty. We're above the tree line, so we haven't seen any trees yet. I want a tree, any tree. Oh, trees! How I've missed you.
As we got closer to Inuvik, there were a couple sign markers, 50 kilometers out, 40. And I remember we got to 30 kilometers and Brad is laying on the ground. I didn't even see him put his bike down. And in that split second, I thought, oh geez, something bad happened. Last thing I want is this guy to die.